Hi everybody, my name is Lion, and I'm going to refute the claim that earth-based structures provide many solutions for residential shelters in the United States and other developing countries. I will do this by refuting the following secondary claims: that it is economical, that it is ecological, that it is safe, therefore socio-culturally acceptable, and use in the U.S. and other countries have been successful. My main argument behind this is that benefits provided by earth-based structures are over-exaggerated for profits. And to illustrate this, I must first define earth-based structures, because I know this was a problem before. Earth-based structures, or super adobes, are dome-shaped homes constructed with long snake-like polypropylene bags, which are essentially long sandbags, filled with a variety of substances such as dirt, and held together with barbed wire, and all covered with plaster to make it a more permanent structure. Secondly, I'd also like to define the developing country, because according to the Oxford Dictionary, a developing country is a poor agricultural country that is seeking to become more advanced economically and socially. This distinction shows that the United States and the developing countries are very different from each other. Ultimately, what may work for the United States will not work for developing countries and vice versa. Since my opponent focused more on the benefits of the United States, I would like to focus more on that. So, on to the first response, that super adobe homes are economical. Super adobe homes, I believe, that are not economical, do not have many more economical advantages than a regular lumber home. My opponent states that the cost of living has gone up by means of upkeep of older buildings, that there's high mortgage rates, and high utilities attributed to heating and cooling, all of which can be solved by building super adobe homes. First, as far as upkeep goes, these buildings are an investment. Upkeep comes with the territory and is often rewarded. According to an article written in 1993 by the LA Times, the average home price in Orange County was $132.60 per square foot. And in 2014, Zillow estimated the average home price in Orange County as being $356 per square foot. This means that the average home price has nearly tripled in just over 20 years. There's also a problem with his reasoning on high mortgage rate. A mortgage is a loan on a purchased house, and super adobe homes still cost a good amount of money. According to Noller Cully, the inventor and sole owner of the patented super adobe home, a 3-bedroom super adobe home would cost about $75,000 to build. This is much higher than my opponent's figure of $500. The main difference is labor costs. Lastly, all solutions for high utility costs by super adobe homes, such as the wind tunnel chimney and radiant floor heating, can also be applied to regular lumber homes. My response to the second claim, that is more ecological, is that maybe it is, but at the cost of quality of living. My opponent then goes on to say a value claim that essentially that it's less is better, that these are built on the idea that less is better. Well, I do not wish for less, and neither does America. This is a nation of supersizes, monster trucks, and MTV cribs. Now, I know this is a value claim as well, but I just thought it deserved value response. He then goes on to say that the material is sustainable, and I can agree with that, except that it's also degradable. According to CalEarth, natural woven jute bags have not been used by the architect because of toxic chemical preservatives like formaldehyde. Instead, a synthetic low UV ultraviolet resistant degradable material has been preferred. In a temporary building, the bags are allowed to degrade and the building returns to earth. For permanent structures, the synthetic bags are plastered over to provide an erosion-resisting layer. Further investigating into the issue on CalEarth proved that these buildings without plaster will degrade fully within 1 season, meaning building time is heavily restricted, and every day the bags are not covered with plaster weakens the structural integrity. Damage done to the plaster also causes issues because exposure to the bags would further degrade the material. An incident similar to my last example happened to a woman in belonging to an eco group called My Little Homestead. And she did not give a specific figure, but she said that the cost to fix it and make it more structurally okay was pretty high. My response to his claim that it is safe, therefore it is socio-culturally acceptable is that both statements are incorrect. It is not safe because of the degradation I mentioned earlier. If one bag deteriorates, then the structure falls inward on whoever is inside, trapping them in a mound of earth and materials. Secondly, super adobe homes are rarely accepted into society. According to CalEarth, the buildings cannot have 2 stories, and since homes can only be dome-shaped, This restricts the artistic value of homes. The restriction of multiple stories in a home prevents urban cities to ever adapt this building style, and suburban communities strongly favor individuality. Finally, I cannot argue that there are some safety advantages such as mold elimination. Though this is misleading, for yes, there will be no mold growth in the structure. Mold can still grow on anything in the structure. Lastly, my response to the last claim that super adobe homes are a success in the United States and elsewhere is that the information used to determine success is misleading. There is no formal statistic proving success ever presented in my opponent's presentation or anywhere else online, only statements. And all quotes used by my opponent in this matter were taken from CalEarth, whose employees, according to citizenaudit.org, which is essentially a tax audit website, stand to profit from the success of the company. Ambiguous information posted on the CalEarth website states that Super Adobe is a patented system, freely put at the surface of humanity and the environment. Licensing is required for commercial use. However, according to CalEarth, in order to learn how to make an effective Super Adobe home with Windows, you must take $7,000 worth of classes. And as far as using the knowledge for projects other than your own, as it states in the quote above, licensing is required for commercial use. Also, in order to build one of these homes, you have to have a crew who all know what they're doing. There's no time to waste because every day the Super Adobe homes are exposed without plaster degradation occurs. In conclusion, the Super Adobe home is a novelty idea that may be applicable to third world countries, but for a first world country or any country attempting to appear like a first world country, this is too basic and far too deceiving to be taken seriously. Thank you.
Well, the argument's very well labeled, and the secondary claims are straight and easy to follow. You respond to the individual points with very clear counterclaims. I like the fact that you had evidence on each of those claims that you used to back up your argument. On the economical issue, for instance, on the return on investment that people get in current standard homes, I thought that that was very well documented. The labor costs for one of these earth homes is explained. I do think right at the end you have an additional cost that you're talking about that might apply in that particular point. I'm not exactly sure why you saved it until later on in the argument, but that would suggest that the cost is also pretty high as well. When you get to the third point about, the second point about the quality of life and whether or not they're going to be perceived as desirable, I think that also affects whether or not they're economical, because if they're not resellable, that's a little bit problematic. On the second point with it being ecological, I thought you had a pretty good explanation that this really comes down to a value issue, and you give a value argument in response to it, although I do think that you also had a counterclaim on this, which was the degradation issue, and I think that there are issues here that suggest that people would not see this as being maybe it's great for the environment, but it's not so great for your investment. So there's a little bit of a tie into that first point, and for the safety issue, which is what you're talking about on the third point. And on the third point, I thought you had a pretty good explanation, even with the mold argument. I thought there was a very good summary, very, very good research on your argument and very clearly stated. Thank you.